What's up guys, this is Richard from A Man About Style. Today we are going to learn about 3 gin drinks that every man should try. I'm here with entrepreneur, lifestyle connoisseur, and media personality, Anthony Jr.
What's up, man?
Hey.
How you feeling, man?
First of all, do you drink?
Obviously, I do. I love drinking.
Okay. He has a podcast called Cognac Small Talk, if you didn't know. But do you drink gin?
Occasionally I drink, but I'm excited to try some of the drinks that we have today.
We are here at the beautiful Joli in Seattle. It is a restaurant bar known for their gin drinks. So we are gonna head over to the bar right now and introduce Matt, the bartender and owner, and he's gonna make us our first drink. Hey guys, my name is Matt, owner here at Joli Restaurant. Excited to be here with Anthony and Richard, talking a little bit about gin and some gin cocktails today. A little bit about Joli. We love gin here. We think it's a cool thing that you don't see very often. A lot of places do whiskey and whiskey menus. We want to bring it back to gin and talk a little bit about its history.
Can you tell us about the history about gin?
Gin's got a really cool, unique history. First reference to gin is 13th century. Basically, gin, the name comes from the Dutch word jenever, because it was big back in like the 15th, 16th century when the Dutch East Indies Company was coming around. They were importing a bunch of spices, fruits, all these things that were going to spoil. So to preserve them, they preserve them in alcohol, right? So they get neutral grain spirits, similar to like what vodka would be now. And you put these rare spices and things in there, and especially juniper berry, which is popular, which most people think of now when they think of gin. That was super popular to use. The Dutch word for juniper is genever, shorten that down to gin. And then it kind of stuck from there. From there, we kind of saw a resurgence, 16th, 17th century England. A lot of places were making gin. They used to say there was a gin distillery on every block in London at one point, right? And then there started being fires, things like that. So they started to ban it in London. So you kind of fell off a little bit. People started drinking whiskey, rum, especially in America. That became really popular. And then again, we saw another resurgence with gin around the Prohibition area because people were, what you've heard of now is bathtub gin. People were doing that literally during the Prohibition era, making gin in their bathtubs, putting it with a bunch of chemicals, things like that, to kind of give it like a unique flavor. But what that did was that lended to cocktail making, because now you had to disguise the nasty flavors that were coming from this bathtub gin. So you were adding honey and sugars and bitters and juices, and then you started to see where the craft cocktails era really began.
What's the distilling process for gin? Is it any different from whiskey or bourbon?
I guess the best similarity would be with vodka. They're both neutral grain spirits, which basically means you take like a column still or a pot still and you're just constantly distilling over and over, kind of taking the impurities out to give you a really nice, clear, pure product at the end, which is like a clear, again, what's called a neutral grain spirit. So it's made from different kinds of grains, things like that. Kind of a misnomer is people think it's actually made from the juniper berry. It's really not. That's just added to it in the process. So just basically infuses it from that. And that's really what separates it from a vodka. The cool thing about gin, what makes it unique, is you can kind of, as a distiller, you can put whatever you want in there. Spices, different kinds of herbs, and you can really take these crazy flavors. Whiskey and things like that have some requirements and legal regulations, especially bourbon, that prevents the distiller from really going crazy. Gin, on the other hand, the distiller can really do whatever they want and have that creative control, which is why you can have 2 gins side by side that'll taste completely different and will go great in different cocktails.
Why is gin and tonic so popular?
Kind of a little history on gin and tonic. Really became big when England, during colonialism, was really expanding out to different areas. Funny thing about tonic, a lot of people don't know, is true tonic is made with cinchona bark, which has some anti-malarial qualities to it. So as Britain was going into Africa, they were going into India, they were going to South America, they always had this risk of malaria, so they would actually ration out to their troops a gin and tonic a day. Okay, the other thing is you have the citrus, the lime, which is pretty popular. That gets you that vitamin C. It's going to help fight scurvy. These guys are out. They're in the jungle. And then also you get a little bit of gin, makes the troops feel good, makes them a little bit braver. Kind of does all those things for you. From there, the drink just kind of took off, and it's just like a good. As we all know, on a summer day, there's like almost nothing better than a true gin and tonic. It's refreshing. If you do the right kind of gin, you're going to have some nice herbal, medicinal qualities. But again, it's just kind of like take the heat away from you on a given day. So now with the advent of new tonic makers, we're starting to see more variety. So so again, now it's like gin and tonic's just taking off in a whole different direction. So, what should a beginner know when they start drinking gin? So I would tell a beginner, don't be scared of gin. I know everyone's a little worried. We all had that moment, early 20s, when you had some $9 gin, made you sick. You're scared of it now? I have more than 60 gins here, and they're all unique flavors. They all make cool cocktails. They got different flavors, like I talked about, the history. You know, don't be shy. Talk to your bartender, have him make you a cool gin drink. I'm sure you're gonna love it. And then from there, you know, start with these 3 drinks that we're talking about today, and then start to branch off, and you're gonna love gin in no time.
Matt, what are we making today?
I chose 3 gin drinks today that I think are great for the average guy to kind of get used to gin and start to enjoy some flavors. Basically what we're going to do today is take some classic drinks and just twist them up with some special unique gins. First one, we talked a little bit about the history of gin and tonic. I'm going to talk about specifically the way we do it here at Joli. We're going to use Bainbridge Distilling, keep it local. Really nice, their Doug Fir gin is going to give some nice, like it sounds, going to give some like herbaceous flavor, some nice juniper flavors in there as well. Makes for a nice classic gin and tonic. We're also going to use Bradley's Pina Tonic, made by a local gentleman named Bradley Feather. Does an amazing job, actually gets the cinchona bark from Peru, like I was talking about earlier, kind of staying true to the history, which gives it some, and he uses whole spices, he uses orange zest, so it gives us some nice warm flavors, gives us some earthiness, really makes for a unique, cool gin and tonic. Second drink we're going to do is a Negroni, classic drink from the early 1900s Italy. Basically was made by Count Negroni, who wanted an Americano, which was a Campari and soda water. He wanted that to be spiced up a little bit. So he asked the bartender to do that. The bartender put gin in instead of soda water into it. That drink's now a classic. So we're going to make it a little bit different. We're going to use Apostole's gin, which is a cool Argentinian gin that kind of just hit the U.S. market in the last couple of years. Really becoming popular with bartenders. It's got eucalyptus, yerba mate in there. So it really has some nice flavors that make it pop in a Negroni. Lastly, we're going to do a Genicillin. That's a drink that's just kind of really just stays here. It's something we made up here at Joli. But it's a riff on a classic drink which is called a penicillin, made by a New York bartender named Sam Ross in 2005. Originally it was made with a nice peated scotch, lemon, ginger, honey. We use Big Gin, which is a local Seattle gin. They do a peat barrel gin. Really has some cool flavors, so we're just kind of taking this classic scotch drink. We're going to do it with gin, and we're going to spritz a little bit of the Freud scotch on there to give it some nice peaty notes.
So I will say, after Matt making a gin and tonic, I can see why this is a popular drink. So I appreciate you telling us about the gin and tonics and gin in general and all that good stuff.
It's my pleasure, and I appreciate you guys coming in. It's fun hanging out, talking about gin. You know, we're gonna change the world one gin and tonic at a time.
Sounds good. Hey, definitely I will make sure to link everybody's information in the bio and also at amanaboutstyle.com. But make sure you stop by Joli Seattle if you're in the area. It's a great vibe. Until next time.